Hey guys, so what we're going to do real fast is just kind of do a little bit of a refresher on the 4 different types of angles that we talked about last time. So the 4 main ones are alternate exterior angles, alternate interior angles, corresponding angles, and consecutive interior angles, which I also know as same side. Now, looking at the diagram up here, if I label this as A, B, and then this is T, I can say that line A is parallel to line B, and that T is the transversal. Okay? So now, trying to identify alternate exterior angles. So key pieces of alternate exterior are opposite sides, and it's opposite sides of the transversal. Okay? And they are congruent to one another. So looking at my diagram, examples of alternate exterior angles would be, so my transversal again, guys, is letter T. If I were just to pick one, I need to go on the opposite side now, outside the parallel lines, so that's something else you might want to write, outside parallel lines, okay, meaning outside of it, opposite side, would be angle 8. So angle 1 and angle 8 are congruent to one another. That means also there's another set, and I'm going to use zigzags for that. If I say angle 2 and angle 7 then would be alternate exterior angles. So then jumping down to alternate interior, it's the same concept. So they're opposite sides. They are congruent to one another. Now the only difference is instead of being outside the parallel lines, they're inside the parallel lines. So I have to work in between A and B. So really I'm just concerned with the area in here. So if I say angle 3, staying in this box now on the opposite side of the transversal would be 6. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 6. And then again, I'm going to use zigzags. So angle 4 then would be alternate interior to angle 5. Corresponding angles are congruent to one another. They're in the same position, just on different lines. So what that means is if I were to pick up line A and put it right on top of line B, the angles would match up with one another. So I'm just going to star the first set. So if I say angle 1, that corresponding angle would have to be angle 5. Now I'm going to use circles to show the next set. So if I say angle 2, that corresponding angle then is angle 6. I'm going to use a triangle. So if I say angle 3, that corresponding angle is angle 7. And then I'll use a square. So if I say angle 4, that corresponding angle is angle 8. Now, consecutive interior angles. Again, it's got that word interior, so it has to be inside the parallel lines. Okay, so inside parallel lines. Now, another thing with them is it's on the same side of the transversal. That's how you also get the name same side. And then the last thing is that they're supplementary. So remember, supplementary is when they add up and equal 180 degrees. So now, angle 4 and angle 6 would be consecutive interior angles. They're on the same side of the transversal inside my parallel lines. And the same thing would go with angle 3 and angle 5. Again, they're on the same side of the transversal inside my parallel lines. So they're the 4 main angles that you need to worry about right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go through some examples together, kind of reinforcing those skills that we did last class, and then I'm going to ask that you guys complete some on your own. So this worksheet is posted for you guys on Schoology for you guys to follow along with. I'm going to go through some examples and then you guys are going to do the rest. So the main thing here, it says in the directions, classify the angle pair as corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, or consecutive interior, and then you have to find x. So the key part first is to classify. So if I notice I have this angle out here and this angle here. Now asking myself, are they outside or inside? Well, they're outside, which tells me it has to be an exterior. And then are they on the same side of the transversal or opposite? Well, they're on opposite sides. So that means that they're alternate to me. So that means my classification would be alternate exterior. Now, alternate exterior angles are congruent. Okay, now another word for congruent simply just means equal. So what you're going to do is you're just going to set these two equal to one another. So 8x plus 19 is equal to 139, and then you simply have a two-step equation that we're going to solve. So go about solving for my variable x. I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. So you're left with 8x equals 120. Getting x by itself now, because you're at a one-step equation, you'll have to divide both sides. So you get x to equal 15. And now I have my variable x. Now what you can do to check to make sure that you did this correctly is actually plug it back in to the original equation or the original expression. So I could plug this into 8x plus 19, because if I do 8 times 15 plus 19, that should give me that 139 degrees. So 8 times 15 is 120 plus 19, which does give me the 139 degrees. So that's a good one. So whenever you're solving for the variable and you know when your angle measures, it's always good habit to check your variable to ensure that you are correct in that case. Okay, so next we're going to jump down to is number 3. So looking at number 3, you're talking about this angle right here and then this one. So the arrows for the measures are pointing in there. So just asking yourself, am I outside or inside my parallel lines? You're inside. Are you on the same side or opposite sides? You're on opposite. So that means I have to be alternate interior. Now, one thing that we know about alternate interior angles, same as with alternate exterior, is that they are congruent to one another. So with your two expressions, you can generate an equation by setting the two equal to one another. So this will become 13x minus 43 equals 7x minus 1. And now you have to solve for your variable. Now remember, guys, you have variables on both sides, so you need to get variables on one side. It doesn't matter what side you're going to go with. I'm just going to subtract over the 7x because it's going to keep my variable positive. So now 13x minus 7x is positive 6x. So 6x minus 43 equals negative 1. Add 43. So then you get 6x equals 42. Divide 6. And you get x to equal 7. Okay, so with alternate interior angles, yes, you're just given two expressions, but all you have to do is set them equal to one another in order to try to solve that. So now we're going to look at number 4. So looking at number 4, you have this angle right here and this angle right here. Well, asking yourself, am I outside or inside? So if I notice I'm inside these two parallel lines right now, and then am I on the same side or on opposite sides? Well, here's my transversal. I'm on the same side, so they would have to be considered consecutive interior angles. So now, with consecutive interior angles, we know, because they also form a straight line here, they have to add up and equal 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an equation of 6x plus 2 plus my other angle of 11x minus 9 and set that equal to 180. So now in order to solve this, you're first going to have to combine like terms. So that's going to give you 17x. And then combining your other set of like terms, that'll give you negative 7 is equal to 180. So now you have a two-step equation that you can solve. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides first. They cancel out here. You're left with 17x is equal to 187. Dividing by 17 to get x by itself, you get x is equal to 11. And like before, guys, you can plug it in. So if I plug it in here, 6 times 11 plus 2. So that gives me 66 plus 2, which is 68. And then if I do 11 times 11 minus 9, that's 121 minus 9, which will give me 112. So if I add those two together, they do give me 180, which is what I am looking for. Alright, so I'm going to do a few more with you guys before I set you loose. So the next one we're going to look at is number 5. So scrolling down, number 5. So looking at it, you have this angle right here and then this one right here. So based on your parallel lines, are they outside or inside? Well, if you're saying they're not outside but they're not inside, that's because they then have to be corresponding. So these are corresponding angles. Because if I were to pick up this first line here and put it right on top, those two angles would be in the same position. So we know corresponding angles are congruent. So setting it up, I can simply say that they need to be equal to one another. And then all I have to do is solve my equation. So getting your variables on one side, constants on the other, you're going to subtract 7x, subtract 7x. So then you have 2x minus 20 is equal to 18. Add 20 to both sides. You get 2x is equal to 38. And then you got to divide by 2, and you get x to equal 19. And there you have it. So consecutive or corresponding angles are equal to one another. And again, you can always plug it in to double check your work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to another slide. If you have the new sheet out or the worksheet out, please flip over. And here we go. And again, if I went too fast, you can pause the video and copy down the rest. So we're going to look at number 9. So they say if L is parallel to M, so line L is parallel to M, so remember they put little arrows on the line to show that they are parallel. They then tell me the measure of CBE. So going in that order on the figure, I'm going to go C, B, E. Now remember, the middle letter is the vertex of the angle. So really they're talking about this angle right here. Okay, so when they name it on 3 letters, the middle letter is the vertex, meaning that's that center point of the angle. They're telling me that that part now is the 14x plus 17. And then they're telling me the measure of FEH. So I'm going FEH. So they're talking about this angle right here. And they're telling me that is 19x minus 23. What they want me to do is find the measure of CBE. So I have to find the measure of this guy. Well, in order to do that, first I'm going to have to solve for x. So first, solve for x. Well, in order to do that, you're going to have to figure out what type of angles these are. So looking at it, those angles are going to be corresponding. So you have corresponding angles. Now with corresponding angles, we know that they have to be congruent. And another word for congruent is equal. So I'm going to set my 2 expressions equal to one another. And then I'm just going to solve for x using all the skills that we've learned before. Now, I like to keep my variable positive, so I'm going to first subtract over 14x. If you want to subtract over the 19x, fine. It doesn't matter. So I have positive 17 is equal to 5x minus 23. Adding 23 then, I get 50 equals 5x. Dividing by 5, you get x equals 10. Now my question is am I done? So if you said no, you are correct. And the reason being is you still need to find the measure of CBE. So in order to find CBE, and remember that's this part right here, what are you going to have to do? So if you just said plug in x, you're correct. So now I'm going to find the measure of angle CBE by plugging in 10 for x. Well, CBE was 14x plus 17, so that's going to become 14x, which is now 10, plus 17. And then I'm just going to simplify. So 10 times 14 is 140, plus 17, which when I add them together, the measure of angle CBE is equal to 157 degrees. And that right there then is your final answer. So the key to doing these problems now is 1, you still need to figure out what type of angle that you have and then solve for x that way. And then your second step is to find the measure of the angle that they're asking you for, okay? So what you do then is simply plug in your value of x into one of those originals that they give you. All right. Now, I'm going to do one more example with you guys, and that's going to be number 13. So all the way down at the bottom. So for 13, they're telling you if R is parallel to S. So again, I can draw on these little arrows to show that they're parallel. Now they tell me the measure of angle 6, so that's this guy right here, is 8x minus 3. And then they tell me the measure of angle 7, that's this guy right here, is 15x minus 1. Find each angle measure. So there's a little more now considering I need to find all of these angle measures. Well, don't panic because it's quite simple to do. So looking at the 2 angles that we were given, classify them. What type of angles are they if they are inside the parallel lines and on the same side of the transversal? If you said consecutive, interior, you're correct. Now, with consecutive interior angles, we know that they are supplementary, so they have to add up and equal 180. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm simply going to combine like terms. So 8x plus 15x, that's going to give me 23x minus 3 minus 1. It gives me negative 4 is equal to 180. So now you have a simple two-step equation to solve. So add 4 to both sides. You get 23x is equal to 184. And then getting x by itself, divide by 23. You get x to equal 8. Now, I'm not done because I need to find the measure of each angle. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to have to figure out what angle 6 and angle 7 are. And to do that, I'm just going to plug in my value of x into both of those expressions. So 15 times 8 minus 1. Well, that gives me 120 minus 1, which is 119 degrees. And then doing the same thing here, this becomes 8 times 8 minus 3. That's 64 minus 3, which is 61. Now, just double checking my work, if I add those two together, they do give me 180. So I did my math correct. So that means that angle 7 is 119 degrees. And then angle 6 is 61 degrees. Now, we can get the rest of our angles by using our classifications for the 4 types. So it doesn't matter what angle you start with. I'm just going to start with working with angle 6. So knowing angle 6, thinking about the different types you have, I know angle 8 in comparison to angle 6 is going to be corresponding. So angle 1 or angle 8 is also 61 degrees. Now, looking at angle 8 and angle 4, they're opposite sides of the transversal, outside the parallel lines, so they're alternate exterior angles. So angle 4 also has to be 61 degrees. And then the same thing goes with angle 2, because it is corresponding to angle 4. And then now I can fill in the other 3 angles that I'm missing based on knowing that with angle 7, angle 3 is alternate interior, so that has to be 119 degrees. Now, angle 1 is corresponding to angle 3, so angle 1 is 119 degrees. And then angle 5 would also be 119 degrees because it's alternate exterior with angle 1. So really with this one, it's just taking everything that we've done up until this point and putting it into one problem. Because you identified what the angle was, you had to solve for a variable, and then you just had to solve for all the missing angle measures. Okay, so that's the end of the problems that I'm going to go through with you guys. I'm going to ask that you complete the rest of the problems, and then you answer the submission with your answers that are posted on Schoology. Just a reminder, this needs to be completed by Friday night at 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or Miss Luby. We both will be having office hours on Friday. Have a great day, guys, and if we don't see you, have a wonderful weekend.